Once upon a time, in the bustling meadow under the golden warmth of the afternoon sun, there lived a little gray mouse named Milo. Milo wasn't like the other animals. He wasn't fast like the rabbits, nor strong like the moles. Instead, Milo was small, quick-witted, and clever, a thinker in a meadow full of doers. Milo loved nothing more than scampering around his home, collecting berries and seeds, and sharing them with his friends. But just as the meadow was beautiful, it held its share of trouble. And trouble came in the form of Antonio, the big bully ant. Antonio was the largest ant anyone had ever seen, a hulking creature with shiny black armor, pincers that could cut through stems, and an attitude as sharp as his claws. He loved throwing his weight around, terrorizing anyone who crossed his path, and taking whatever food or toys he fancied. One morning, Milo was happily carrying a handful of red berries back to his burrow when Antonio appeared like a shadow in the grass. The ant's size made him tower over Milo like a mountain. His antennae twitched as his pincers clicked menacingly. "Hey, Mouse," Antonio snarled, blocking Milo's path. "Those berries belong to me now." Milo froze, clutching his berries close to his chest. Though he wanted to run, he knew from the stories that Antonio never let anyone get away without some kind of trouble. "But Antonio," Milo said cautiously, "I gathered these berries myself. There are plenty more in the meadow. You could—" "Quiet!" Antonio snapped, stomping his leg so hard the dirt below trembled. "I don't care where they came from. What I say goes. Now fork them over, unless you want a lesson in respect." The other animals nearby watched nervously from behind bushes and patches of clover. No one dared to challenge Antonio, but Milo wasn't ready to give up so easily. Suddenly, an idea sparked in Milo's mind. He may not have had the bulk to overpower Antonio, but he had something better: his wit. After a moment's pause, Milo sighed, putting on his most pitiful face. "All right, Antonio," he said, his big ears drooping in resignation. "You can have my berries, but since you're so big and strong, I bet you could carry twice as many, maybe even 3 times as many. There's a giant berry bush just around that hill. It's full of the sweetest, juiciest berries in the meadow." Antonio leaned down, his black eyes narrowing. "A giant berry bush, huh?" Milo nodded enthusiastically. "Oh yes, the berries there are so big they'd make these look like crumbs. But it's hard to reach the top of the bush. I could show you where it is if you promise not to flatten me once you're full." Antonio smirked, clicking his pincers. "Fine, lead the way, Mouse, but no tricks or you'll regret it." The two set off across the meadow, Milo darting ahead on his tiny paws, while Antonio lumbered behind, stomping through the grass like a living fortress. Although Antonio kept glaring at Milo, the mouse stayed calm, his clever plan unfolding step by step. When they finally rounded the hill, Milo pointed to a berry bush that stood taller than anything else in the meadow. It was bursting with plump red berries that gleamed in the sunlight. But there was a catch. The bush was guarded by an enormous hive of honeybees buzzing in and out of their home in the branches. Milo knew the bees weren't aggressive unless provoked. He also knew Antonio wasn't one to handle things delicately. "There," Milo said, pointing dramatically. "That's the bush I told you about. Only the strong can reach those berries. You'll need to grab them right from the top." Antonio eyed the bush greedily, his antennae quivering. "Piece of cake," he boasted. "Watch me, Mouse." As Milo stepped back, Antonio charged at the bush, climbing furiously, despite the bees already swarming in warning. He reached for the berries with his pincers, only to accidentally knock into the hive with one of his powerful legs. In seconds, the bees turned into a buzzing cloud, swirling and stinging furiously. Antonio screeched and swatted at the air, fumbling back toward the hill, his pride shattered and his bravery in tatters. Meanwhile, Milo quickly darted in, collecting just enough berries to replace what Antonio had taken earlier. He didn't try to take more than he needed. After all, the bees deserved their fair share of berries, too. When Antonio finally stopped running and realized Milo was back at his burrow, safe and sound, he found himself facing a strange feeling for the first time: embarrassment. No one had ever outsmarted him before. Antonio skulked away, licking his wounds and muttering about the dangers of bugs. As for Milo, the little mouse returned to his friends with berries and a big grin. Word of how he'd handled Antonio spread quickly across the meadow. Animals whispered about the mouse, who didn't need strength to stand up to a bully, just clever thinking and a kind heart. From that day forward, Milo gained the respect of everyone in the meadow, even Antonio, who stayed away from Milo's burrow. And while the big bully ant might have discomfort from his encounter, Milo's bravery left the meadow a little brighter and a little safer for all its inhabitants. The end.